Hello and welcome back to Season 12 of the All Assists Off League, where it's the turn of Mexico to kick us off for the debut of Season 12. Plenty of driver changes, plenty of entertainment on the way over the course of the next 10 weeks or so, to 8 different races. We start the defence of the championship from Danger David. Plenty of drivers to be talking about who have changed teams over the summer, and I suppose the first one, I'm going to bring him in to talk about it on his final race with us. So Skin, thank you for all the time you spent with us going through Season 11, of course the finale of Season 10 as well. And I think the first thing I've got to ask you is about the new driver lineup at your favoured Red Bull, that is RS0121 and Quincy. What's your thoughts of the incoming transfer there?
Well, it's big, like you say, season break, team changes. It should, in theory, mix up the grid, mate. And yeah, I'm just looking at the leaderboard now as some drivers start to go out. And to be honest, mate, it's very strange seeing some of the badges next to the names that I've got used to over the last few months. So yeah, should be fun.
Yeah, so what's happened is there's been an update, of course, for Formula One, and with every update that EA, should I say, tends to send us, there's been an error, which means you cannot actually use regular teams in this scenario, which means everybody's going to be using their own manually created cars. Now, some have gone to the effort to try and make the cars that they're going to be driving look similar to the team they're going to be racing for. But heading into the new season, we've got RS0121 and Quincy in the Red Bull. We've got Danger David and D. Perez, who, of course, are the current defending Constructors' Championships, having been with Red Bull, and Danger David, of course, the current defending drivers champion. They are both at Mercedes for this upcoming season. There's been a big change at Ferrari, and that is Peter Caspi now alongside Maverick. Of course, Maverick previously of the McLaren. In Haas, we've got Sir Ibo again, previously with the McLaren, and there, Veriduco also alongside him. Veriduco has spent a bit of time in McLaren as well. Alfa Romeo has Toxic ZZ10 and T-Bran. Aston Martin has Evo and Skid Solo. AlphaTauri has Frankie and Trugster. We've also got in the McLaren, it is before this last season, the 3-time defending world champion VSM Sandman, who will be hoping to regain that crown, and hopefully will be doing so for McLaren. Teaming up with him is Tobalenzen, who we saw towards the back end of last season with some very, very impressive results. In the Williams, it's Formula 1 Farah and Kwan. In the Alpine, it is Racing Wheel 027 and Tarkan Gino. Now, Skin, the one I've got to ask you is last season we saw, it started off with AMS. John Z was competing with Danger David and VSM Sandman. This time round, towards the back end of the season, it was Herman 26. Herman doesn't have a seat for this season. He's going to be a reserve driver.
Yes, mate, which I can't remember where it was where we saw that race where he'd started at the bottom of the grid and obviously stormed throughout chaos, throughout weather changes and pit stops and safety cars to win the race and really put his stamp on the league. So, yeah, I'd be slightly aggrieved if I was him, because surely you'd be looking at your lips at the kind of damage you could do in a full season based on that one performance.
Especially considering there's been so many driver changes, to have just missed out on a seat, he will be very disappointed in. But when it comes to his turn to race, we know we'll be expecting very competitive racing from the front of the grid. We have got a couple of cars that have just gone around the track. We are on board with Peter Caspi. We'll jump away from that now, and we'll jump on board with Veriduco, who's doing a little bit of a U-turn there. So we will quickly move away from him and go for the defending champion, Danger David, currently making his way in and around the tracks of Mexico. The fastest lap at the moment and the current pole sitter is VSM Sandman on a 1:17.212. In second is Herman on a 1:17.275. Formula 1 Foreign a 1:18.4. Frankie 1811, then it's a 1:18.5. So we just saw then Pleasant Snake move up to 1:18.405 as his best time as well. So a different approach from VSM Salmon. We've seen him over the past however long leave it till the last lap on these one-shot qualifying sessions. It's a different approach today. He's set the time on the first lap out there. A new season and a new VSM Sandman, shall we say, we're going to be seeing. And he's currently the provisional pole sitter on 1:17.2. But you've just seen then, and you've mentioned about Herman, I've mentioned to you as well, he is going to be racing today. I'd love to tell you what team he's going to be racing for, but I'd be lying if I told you I knew. So he's out in second place at the moment at a 1:17.275. So very close between the two cars that you kind of expect it to be. And Danger David, half a second off the pace.
Yes, mate, slow lap by his standards. Herman is a very close second behind Sandman. But yeah, we usually see Danger David. To be fair, we usually see Sandman not make a time lap until the absolute death. So a little bit of a different approach today, where he's set a time and he's set pole, and I think that'll be quite a tough time to beat. I'm just on board with Quincy, sorry, at the moment. Just trying to get up the map and everything as he comes around the last corner. Could be setting a decent time here, goes into 10th. But yeah, that does seem to be the main three at the moment, between Sandman, Herman and Danger David. I just, I suppose my question is, where's Danger David going to find that half second from?
The thing is with Danger David, and this is something I've seen over the past couple of years whilst we've been following the All Assist Soft League, Danger David doesn't necessarily have to get pole position. His strategy speaks for itself and definitely makes up for what he lacks in pace. So I think he's still up there as one of the front runners. He's got to be, really, hasn't he? But then to consider the fact that he can still be 5 tenths off, and we consider him in amongst the front three with a potential first place finish as well, I think that speaks volumes of just how his strategies worked.
Say that again, sorry, mate. You just, I don't know. We're a bit like bubbly. I don't know if it'll mark it off. It might be your headset, maybe. It was a little bit crackly at points there. Maybe you touched a wire.
Maybe. That sounds about right for me. Danger David is up in third place at the moment, you said, on 117.7. He's half a second behind Herman and VSM Sandman, where he tends to compete quite regularly. Of course, he won the championship last year. I think a lot of that comes from the fact that, his strategy is on point. So he doesn't necessarily have to be quicker than Sandman and Herman, because he plays the strategy card very well during a race scenario. And I think that's why I think it speaks volumes of just how well that strategy works when we're speaking of him alongside Sandman and Herman, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's hard to disagree with you there. Just Sandman has actually gone back out. What do you think about that? 117.2, about 600ths quicker than Herman. Well, you can only assume that he doesn't feel comfortable that's going to be the time set for pole, or he thinks he can set a better lap based on his first time lap. But yeah, he's back out already.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you because we might have a new pole setter. He's not. He's got 5th place. He went purple in Sector 2, RS0121. Now, he's with the Red Bull that, of course, you support. In the final pre-season race, he got pole position. He fell down to 5th place as part of the sprint race, but then went on and won the race despite doing 5 pit stops. He won that final race in Brazil in the pre-season. So he's definitely one to watch out for. He got purple in Sector 2, and I held a bit of hope out there for him for getting pole position, but he's still 8 tenths down on the time. It sees him in 5th place at the moment. So a lot of promise from Red Bull pre-season to say that one of their drivers got on pole position and won the race.
Sorry, mate. I was... Oh, God.
You're busy having a drink.
Oh, dear me. That has gone down the wrong hole, because I was like, oh, shit, he's finishing up, and I'm got a gob full of water.
No, it's absolutely fine. I'll jump on board with Quan while you get yourself readjusted and prepared to carry on with the rest of qualifying.
I'll stick on board with Sandman, mate. He's just about to head into Sector 2, just going around the sort of triple corner that leads into the second sector. I'll very quickly, as he crosses that line shortly, just going around the corner now, and he is... I'm struggling to see where the line is. I think he's already gone past Sector 2, sorry, I can't give you an update on if he's going quicker or not, but he's still absolutely leather in it, so must be confident of setting a quicker time.
Well, I'm on board with Peter Caspi at the moment in the Ferrari, heading round onto the pit straight at the moment. His best times are 120.3. He does, there's now a 120.3, should I say. It moves him into 18th place, but that's about 3 tenths quicker than the time that he set before. It's not enough to move him up a position. It's enough to move him a little bit further away from Veriduco in 19th place and Racing Wheel just behind. But Veriduco is going to be the next one to cross the line. He's currently running just under 2 seconds quicker than his best time. That'll put him in around about 13th place if he can keep it. Oh, look, he's gone 13th place. It's almost like I knew. His 118.8 moves him up from 19th place into 13th. Of course, the points do work completely different. It isn't a case that for the top 10 or the top 8 you get points. It's all the way down. As long as you finish the race, you are on, or in line, should I say, for getting some points. We'll jump on board with Formula 1 Far as he heads into the pit. So we'll jump a little bit further back into Pleasant Snake 13, who's currently in 9th place, going through Sector 2 at the moment. Went red in Sector 1, of course, meaning he didn't beat his best time through that sector. He's got a 118.4 at the moment. He's to find almost a second and a half if he's going to compete at the front with BSM Sam. And when he came out to a little bit of time as well, he didn't manage to beat the time that he set of 117.2. It does still lead him out in first place as Herman comes out on an outlap, and a little bit later we'll jump on board with him to see just how he gets on as Pleasant Snake goes round onto the pit straight, heads into the pits. Excellent. I'm glad I'm seeing all of these strategies that people are going for when it's too late. As going round into turn one, we jump on board with Trugster, who is currently riding in third place, 117.3. Very, very competitive time. Maybe a bit of a surprise there, Skin, to see him that high?
Yeah, I think so. When we're talking about the top of the leaderboard, it's sort of tends to be the same 2 or 3 names, or maybe 4. So, yeah, definitely a good lap. I'm sure that will give him a bit of confidence going into the rest of qualifying. Maybe there's parts of the track where he thinks he can improve that. Danger David now down to 5th as D. Perez, his former teammate, goes up into 4th. Just on board with Herman now, mate. He's started his timed lap, looking to find that 600th or so that will get in pole position. But it's looking relatively tight there. What I was saying about Danger David finding half a second, D. Perez and Trugster that you mentioned a second ago, they've managed to find that time and get in and amongst that sort of top 3 or so. So, yeah, Herman does look like he's going slow, so maybe not happy with doesn't seem to be happy with the lap that they've just done. So looks like they're saving tyres, ready to go again. So, yeah, I think going into Sector 2, they weren't looking at cutting the time, so setting themselves up, finding a bit of space on the track to go again.
Well, Trugster has headed into the pits from third place. He wasn't going to beat the time that he previously set. I'm on board with D. Perez, who I think is going to head into the pits now on an in-lap. We do have around about 6 minutes left, I think, of this session. Just under 6 minutes left of the sole qualifying session before we have a sprint race, followed by a 50% lap race to bring you this evening. We've got D. Perez currently in 4th place with his teammate in 5th as it stands at the moment, both on 117s, but D. Perez in 0.588, Danger David on 0.758. So we saw last season, although Danger David did win the championship, there was one race win that went in favour of his teammate D. Perez. So he'll be out this year with a bit more of a statement to kind of make, that he is able to compete a little bit further ahead of his teammate as well. Danger David considered one of the front runners in this league. Herman and Sandman, the other two especially. RS0121 now getting an honorary mention as he started definitely to improve with a couple of upgrades that he's brought to the new Red Bull car. On board with Toxic CZ10, flying through Sector 2 at the moment.
Contact there between Herman and didn't catch who it was. Yeah, I'm not sure. Sector 2 there just collided going into the corner. Not really sure what happened. So Herman will have to pit. Apologies there. I just thought I'd jump in quick after I saw the contact.
Well, Toxic, I think he's going to be fuming with that. He's gone round now to see if he can beat the time. He's hit a 117.7, which moves him up into 6th, but he had to slow down through the back end of Sector 2, heading into the beginning of Sector 3, due to that collision that you've just mentioned there. But he set purple in Sector 2, so with a little bit, if that collision hadn't happened, there's a strong chance Toxic could have been competing for a top 3 place. So he'll be frustrated that yellow flag set him back a little bit on the back of that collision. I don't think there's been any penalties on the back of that collision decided yet, but I'm sure something we mentioned in the Discord a little bit later. There's a lot of conversations going on in the Discord lately about people checking the maps, people checking the mirrors, just to make sure that they're not getting in other people's way at the moment. So we are going to jump on board with Peter Caspi, I think, who's making his way through Sector 2 at the moment. He's going half a second quicker than his best time, which will put him, keep him in 19th place at the moment. Won't push him high enough to compete with Sir Ibo as it stands. So we'll just see how this time sets for him. We've got a yellow flag coming up in Sector 2, but that's behind Peter Caspi, so it doesn't affect him. He goes through now 9/10 quicker than his best time. That will move him up into 17th place from 19th, so it could make a bit of a difference for him. but he needs to be competing a little bit higher if the Ferrari is going to be amongst the front runners by the end of this. I think his teammate for today is Suribo, just ahead of him as well. As he goes onto the pit straight, it's a 1:19.1, moves him up into 17th place. His teammate Suribo moves down into 19th. As a result of that, we've got quite a few cars out on track at the moment. We'll jump on board with Veriduco heading round onto the pit straight at the moment. He's gone red throughout the track so far, so I assume heading into the pits, it is going to be Veriduco going into the pits. So let's jump on board with Formula 1. Farah now making his way around the track. We do have the front three still in, or say that, as VSM Sandman is on his way out onto the track, maybe anticipating Herman or Trugster doing something similar very, very soon. Danger David is out on track. D. Perez also out on track. So as we head into the final few moments, or as Scott Hansen would say, the witching hour of qualifying session, Skin, there we go. Who's going to finish on pole position?
I suppose, again, I always try to go with logic, and the logic does say Sandman. He's strong on pole. Historically, I can't remember many times where he hasn't got pole in the many races that we've commented on, just on an outlap now, and we know how strong he is when it is all or nothing. So yeah, I've got to stick with Sandman at this point, because that's where the logic points towards. What about you? Can you see Danger David maybe snatching it at the end from 6th place, or maybe Herman carrying on? Well, I say carrying on his good form. His qualifying hasn't been the best, is it, based on what we've seen? But maybe making a statement in qualifying as much as he has in the races that we've seen him in.
It hasn't. I'm going to go with Herman on this. I think while Sandman does have great qualifying sessions, he always seems to fall a little bit short at the final hurdle of qualifying, and I think that's where Herman's going to pick it up. It's going to be a fantastic race nonetheless between the two of them. I'm pretty sure of that. Very good drivers, don't tend to collide very much, so I think it's going to be very close between the two of them, but Herman will get just over the line. It's going into the final few corners now. We are on board with D. Perez in the Mercedes. He goes round. I think he takes a bit of a spin, maybe nicks the wall a little bit. His time is 4/10 slower than the time he set before, which will keep him in 4th place. It will open the door for a number of different drivers. One of those is the one we've just jumped on board with now, the defending champion, currently making his way through Sector 2. Just started Sector 2, should we say, and that is Danger David on a 1:17.7. Got one pole position last season. I think he only won one race as well, but he was consistently towards the front, and it led to him being the Drivers' Champion. I think that might be the fewest wins in a season for somebody to win a championship, as he goes through Sector 2, and his time is 3/10 quicker than the best he's set before, which will move him up into 4th place and will put him ahead of his teammate D. Perez, who is currently in 4th place. He falls down to 7th at the moment as Pleasant Snake moves up into 5th. Evil out on an outlap at the moment. We've got Veriduco, Kwan, Tobalenzen and Suribo all done for the qualifying session. As round the pit straight he goes, 1:16.8. What a time that is. 8/10 quicker than what he got before. That puts him 3/10 quicker than VSM Sandman, who's just finished a lap himself, beat his own time, but he hasn't beat the time set by Danger David. So it is over now to Herman. Can he beat the time he set? 1:17.0. He jumps up into 2nd place. What a time. 1:16.8. Skin, that's going to be tough to beat for anybody.
Unbelievable, mate. Sandman actually did shave a bit of time off his previous fastest lap, but still around a 17.2. I mean, I wasn't on board with that. I was on board with Sandman, but yeah, like you said, what a lap. 16.8 is what now? Just under 2/10 quicker than 2nd place, which, as we know in Formula 1, is a phenomenal gap at any level across any discipline. So yeah, what a lap from Danger David. I'm on board with Sandman now. Not 100% sure, if you just bear with me for around about 10 seconds or so. Just going onto the straight now, where he will cross into Sector 3. I'll give you an idea if he's tracking to go quicker. He's currently going 2/10 quicker, which won't be enough to get him that pole position, but would put him on the front row with Danger David in 2nd place. If he can manage that in these last couple of corners, car at the back spits out just a little bit going into the penultimate corner, as he takes the last corner onto the home straight and goes in a doesn't go quicker. Poor Sector 3, 17.243, means that it is quicker than his previous fastest lap, but not quicker than the last lap that he did, which was his fastest of qualifying. So Danger David will get pole. Herman on 2nd on the front row with him. Sandman 3rd, Trugster 4th, and D. Perez completes the top 5. Should make for an interesting race in a couple of minutes' time.
Wow, so we've both predicted second and third place to finish first. So if there's ever a reason to jump on to listen to our podcast where we talk about Formula One on a weekly basis, it is not when we're telling you who's going to finish on pole position and they finish second and third place. But I will take credit for the fact that I got 2/3 of the podium correct on this past weekend's Grand Prix. How did you get on?
Well, I didn't watch the race, and I did again going with logic back Max to win the race, which we know he didn't for the first time this season. So yeah, I'm looking forward. Based on what you said earlier on today, it should be quite an interesting chat, especially after I said about do they need to look at changing the format of street races because of the decreased overtaking opportunities. But it seems like from what you've said and the results and what I'm seeing online that they might have heard those comments and thought, right, we need to step it up this weekend.
It's the rumour I'm hearing is along the wing changes that have been made to Red Bull. Apparently illegal wing changes that had been made, so they've been reverted back, and apparently that's a big reason as to why Max was where he was and wasn't out by about 4-5 minutes ahead of everybody else. So yeah, I got the winner right. I managed to get that as Carlos Sainz, and I got Lando Norris finishing on a podium. Did I not get Lewis Hamilton as well? I think I might have got all three then. No, I didn't. I went Lewis Hamilton, not Lando. So yeah, I got first and third, and I went Max to finish second. So it is what it is. But yeah, we talk, of course, on Loaded Sport. Can be found on Spotify and can be found on YouTube. And despite the fact you are leaving the paddock at the end of this race, Skin, you'll be continuing to talk Formula One during Loaded Sport, I'm sure.
Of course, mate. Of course, it is unfortunate, mate. It's just how life gets. Life commitments, which is just a part of life. It's it's time that I need back on a Monday evening, as much as I've enjoyed it. But yeah, I will of course still be talking about what's happening in the real world of Formula One every Friday, which is when we release. Nearly gave you a little peek behind the curtain then, and as I said when we were recording. But yeah, every Friday is release date, so that's where I'll be moving forward.
Absolutely. So, ahead of this race, for those that are watching for the first time, there is no formation lap. It has been trialled, it has been failed, thanks to the technical geniuses over at EA. We love you, really. So we are going to be straight into this sprint race, which I think is around about 9 laps long. And of course, where you finish in the sprint race is where you will start in the race. You do not have to pit at all during a sprint race. You can if you want to, but that's at your own detriment. So, Skin, who do you think, now we're about to see a little bit of a preview of what the race is going to bring us, who do you think is going to finish the sprint race at the front?
Well, I'm going to go with Sandman, because again, very, very strong, very good at any time they've been behind. He gets ahead quick and then he pulls away. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Sandman for the sprint race. Things could change in the race, of course, once we take into account strategies and everything like that, but I'll go Sandman. What about you?
Well, I'm going to go with Danger David. I didn't back him for qualifying, but I'm going to back him for now. He starts from first place as Peter Casper gets a drive-through penalty for a jump start. We head up into turn one with Herman taking the lead onto the inside of Danger David, but BSM Sandman also taking advantage of that position as Danger David is in free fall at the moment. Truckster moves up into third place as Sandman holds on to first ahead of Herman. D. Perez moves up into fourth. I can't even speak at the moment. D. Perez is there at the moment as there's been a couple of cars going wide. Skin, I'll let you take over for this at the minute.
Yeah, so I'm just on board with Quincy just to try and get an eye for the field ahead. And then just that corner, as you were commentating, someone spun and Quincy went into the back of the car in front, which I believe was Pleasant Snake, or it was either Pleasant Snake or Toxic. They went into the back of, so I didn't see any debris, but I'm going to guess that is a potential pit for Quincy during this sprint race. But yeah, Sandman does lead at the moment. Like I said, look, is it a race with Danger David if he doesn't fall down the grid towards the start?
No, every single time we see Danger David fall back before he goes forward, as we are on 12 laps instead of 9. in this sprint race as we are on board with Truckster heading around the final few corners of the Mexican Grand Prix, heading towards Herman 26 in second place. He's lost a good couple of tenths throughout this as Danger David is overtaken by Toxic for sixth place. And Danger David at the moment just seems to be struggling for a little bit of pace. He didn't pit, which indicates there's no damage, but as Pleasant State now starts to make the move on the inside, maybe holds the inside line going into turn one and might have position on Danger David, who looks like he's stuck behind Toxic. Nope, not enough track there for him, and Pleasant Snake has to hold on to 8th place at the moment. So there is starting to be a little bit of a gap formed between 5th and 6th place as D. Perez making his Mercedes debut, sits in 5th place at the moment. The closest we've got as it stands is Veriduco down in 15th place, just behind Tobalenzen, fighting for 14th, and he is trying to be as close as he can without making contact there, heading into what looks like to be a long right-handed corner before we get a couple of straights and then the dreaded S's, which when you take this at a big pace feels like you're about to go into the wall anyway, isn't it? Is there a trick, is there a secret for these corners? I mean, for you it is, it's called cutting them.
Yeah, I feel like you've come to the wrong person there for advice on that or for any insight, because yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the case is just to not bottle it. You know, you're going to get the most time out of keeping your foot down on the pedal. I think the key is that first corner. We know what it's like in tracks like Austin in the USA and things like that. Those windy corners, Silverstone as well. You've got to get that first corner right, because if you don't, you're still going to feel the impact of that 3 or 4 corners later as you're winding through those corners. So not being afraid of keeping your foot down, but also making sure you get that line going into that very first part absolutely spot on, because that will see you come out of the other end more smoothly more often than not. Whereas if you go in wrong, like I said, you're still going to be trying to get back on track and readjust as you get towards the end of it.
Absolutely. Remember, we do have a 50% race, should I say, after this to bring you, as we are on board with Pleasant Snake, who is knocking on the door of 7th place, and he keeps on flirting with the chances to get past Danger David and get past him as well, going through Sector 2 at the moment. 2 tenths behind him, and Danger David gets a 3-second time penalty. Now, I'm on board with Pleasant Snake. Skin, I don't know if you saw anything there. I didn't see anything from Danger David that would indicate that a time penalty was warranted there, but the officials have given it, as DRS has been opened, and I think it's been enabled as well by Pleasant Snake, who's got a good couple of corners before he can use this again onto one of the longer straights that the Formula 1 calendar gets to offer. And he is just behind Danger David as Herman goes quickest in a 1:19.3. And we see Danger David head into the pits, and I think that is to serve his... Oh, he can't serve his penalty because it's 3 seconds, isn't it? So maybe a bit of damage from him there, and he's struggling to take those corners, potentially from an earlier incident, as we jump on board with D. Perez, who's battling there with Truckster. He manages to hold position, but Truckster isn't done in the fight for 4th place just yet. Less than a second separates the two. He's just behind him as well. And I think he's going to have the advantage of DRS, but he isn't going to be able to use that to his advantage, as D. Perez also holds DRS on Evo in this fight for 3rd place. 3 cars now battling for it. It looks like a bit of a collision there. Maybe Truckster catching the back end of D. Perez as he took a little bit of a spin. I don't know if that was part of his car or whether it was...
Close. Yeah, I think it got very close, but not quite contact. If it was, it would have been minimal. I think in terms of any potential damage should be okay. I think it would just... The car wobbled a little bit at the same time, so made it look worse than what it actually was. I'm just on board with Truckster now.
I'll give credit to a lot of these drivers that, I mean, I'm on board with D. Perez, and I can see the car and the effort that's gone into making that car look like a Mercedes. These are F1 World cars, because since the update, you can't use the actual cars that are available. So to make that look like a Mercedes, I think that's a fantastic effort.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, we've got a penalty there as well for Veriduco for exceeding track limits. Herman currently on a 1:19. He's now taken VSM Sandman for the lead, so 3 tenths separates the two of them. And I feel like Migo and Herman to finish top of qualifying and him getting 2nd place, and then Migo in Danger David to get 1st in the sprint race, and he goes into free fall. I think it's just me cursing absolutely everybody. So prepare for me going for VSM Sandman just to make it even in the actual race. So on 3 tenths behind, D. Perez now battling with Ivor. Truckster may have taken a bit of damage there when he got very close to D. Perez, as he seems to have yielded off ever so slightly. As we now get ready through Sector 2, there is an option for DRS in just a moment's time, I think. It is Yeah, it is. It's just in a second. As you go around a couple of corners with DRS assistance, which absolutely blows my mind. I always thought DRS on corners was a no-go in any capacity. But he continues his way around, heading into the final 2 corners before the pit straight, and a long advantage of DRS. Now, Ivor doesn't have DRS on VSM Sandman, so there's a good chance for D. Perez here to climb with the Mercedes. His teammate is down in 18th place at the moment, so it'd be a good chance heading into the race, the first race of the season here in Season 12 of the All Assists Off League. We are on board with D. Perez heading onto the pit straight. He opens up DRS, looks like he's going to go up onto the inside, takes the inside line, holding it onto it, heading into turn 1. I think he's got position well before we take turn 1. He has got position, and that's D. Perez now up into 3rd place. We've got a couple of corners before another DRS zone, which could work in favour of Ivor 32 unless D. Perez can take advantage of the momentum he just got and move himself closer to VSM Sandman, who is moving further as we speak away from Herman as time progresses. We're halfway through this sprint race at the moment. It is Herman in the lead, VSM Sandman in 2nd, D. Perez in 3rd place. Danger David down in 18th at the moment, where Racing Wheel has just taken Veriduco to take 16th place away from him. The closest we've got with any drivers at the moment is here with Pleasant Snake and Toxic and T-Bran all battling as... No, it's Trugster that they're battling with at the moment. Trugster, Toxic and Pleasant Snake. Can't you tell we've had a pre-season off from all of this? I'm losing track of all the drivers at the moment, but I think that's because the cars are throwing me off ever so slightly, as well as there's a safety car out now and Veriduco is out of the race. So a safety car in a sprint race skin.
We can't get away from it, can we? But yeah, it's a sprint race. You've got to give it everything in such a short amount of time. So clearly, for Veriduco, it was just a bit too much on this occasion. So yeah, yet another safety car. Yeah, I thought we might just have an all-out race for 12 laps, but we couldn't even get that, unfortunately. But Herman is now in 1st place, which I think Sandman pitted. I might be wrong though. Is on medium, so I might have got that completely wrong, so apologies if I have. But yeah, Herman will be in 1st place for the last few laps once the safety car goes in.
Here we go. So normal services resumed. We normally see a lot of safety cars during a street race. This has a wider track, so I wouldn't have expected that many safety cars to make an appearance. But it goes to show the competitive edge that a lot of these drivers have at the moment, as quite a few are heading into the pits. And I think if it's not collision related, do you think it's maybe tactical genius to go into the pits at the moment with what you can only assume will be about 3 laps left? Will it give you that much of an advantage to get heat into those tyres in time?
I don't know. It's a short race, isn't it? So how much damage will the tyres have actually taken? I'm not too sure. So yeah, I'm pit, obviously safety car gives you that advantage of being able to pit or giving you the option, but I'm not really too sure if you're going to gain too much from it, considering that they've only had 7 laps so far. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think there's much advantage to be had to put fresh tyres on at this point after the length of the race so far?
Originally, I'd have thought no, but I've just looked at how many of these actually have medium tyres on at the moment, so it's leading me to believe maybe it could work in favour of some of these drivers lower down that, you know, are trying to battle up for those medium tyres. Danger David is pitted for the 2nd time, though, and finds himself in 19th place. So he's going to have to go from rags to riches if he's going to get a strong finish to start off his title defence on the back of 3 consecutive titles from VSM Sandman. And I think the thing that's going to let Herman down is the fact that he doesn't have a seat for the season. So he's going to have to be hopeful that somebody misses out every week, or at least 3 miss out every week, because he's down as the 3rd reserve driver in this league. But he's out as the race leader at the moment in this sprint race, as we are on board with VSM Sandman, who is just warming up those tyres in what I will call a nostalgic look that he's gone for in the McLaren in the old orange and blue, one of the favoured cars of recent years, I dare say. A nice little combination of orange and blue. I always got told it didn't look right, but since they've gone for it, I will beg to differ.
Safety car. It keeps flashing. I don't know if you're having the same thing, but it's flashing. I don't know if it's planning on coming in or not. We're only going into Sector 2, so we're not going to stay yet. But as it stands, if it does go in, we've got, 4, 9, 10, 11, 4 laps to go. So this is the epitome of a sprint race at this point, isn't it?
It is. Now, I'm not going to tell you just how well RS0121's been doing over this pre-season. Now, he's currently down in 16th place, so I'm going to trust his judgment on making the decision to pit here. Maybe the switch to Red Bull is going to be a work of magnificence for him, as currently, we look at the pre-season races. He finished first in the qualifying in France. He finished first in the sprint race in France. He finished second in the actual race in France, behind only Herman. He'd also got Danger David and Sandman and Evil all in that race. In Brazil, he finished first in qualifying. He finished fifth in the sprint race, and he finished first in the race in Brazil. So the pre-season has definitely gone out in favour of RS0121. So, could we see a brand new contender for the Drivers' Championship? From what you've seen of him so far in this sprint race, do you think that's a possibility, Skin?
Yeah, of course it is. Absolutely. I think you're taking away massive credit if I were to say that no, I don't think he could do that. So yeah, we absolutely could have a new contender in the All Assist Soft League. Safety car's still not come in, so at this point we're getting a maximum of 3 all-out races. Really could make for an exciting couple of laps here. Just looking up and down the field, Herman on soft tyres, Sandman on mediums, Deepers mediums, softs for Evo and Toxic as well in the top 5. Obviously, Danger David is currently right at the back of the grid on soft tyres, despite starting in first place for the sprint race. So, yeah, assuming we get 3 laps here, it's going to be all out.
What approach do you take going into the race then, just whilst they're making their way through Sector 2? In terms of tyre choice, of course, for those that aren't aware, during a race, even with 50% distance, you do need to go on 2 of the dry tyre compounds, which is, of course, soft, medium or hard, unless it starts to rain. So if we have a dry race, soft, medium or hard are the options. You must use at least 2 of those. Obviously, the longevity is for the hard tyres, then medium, then soft, but the speed is quite the reverse. Skin, what way would you go heading into this race, knowing what the Mexican Grand Prix track is like?
Quite a fast track, a very short time. Obviously, we saw the qualifying time. Safety car is coming in this lap, so we're going to have 3 laps here, laps 10, 11 and 12 to complete this race, and in control. But yeah, sub 120s sort of towards the back end of the race in terms of lap times. I think you want to start fast. I know I'm always an advocate for start on softs, but again, looking at the pit stops, potentially look at a one-stop approach, starting on mediums, then moving on to hards. I think that could be an approach. But I'm sure there will be some drivers that start on softs and maybe go for that 2-stop and get the most out of those faster tyres. But we'll see. I'm sure we're going to see plenty of different strategies across the board. Herman now putting on the gas, as they say, as he starts lap 10, 3 laps to go. We are ready to rock. Adam, I'll let you take it away.
Yes, as Herman puts on the gas, VSM Sandman puts on the pressure, heading up into turn 1. He takes the inside line. He's going to have the advantage of the inside line going into turn 1, but I think the lead stays with Herman. Very close between the 2 front runners at the moment. D. Perez having a look if there's an error, if he can make his way further up onto a higher podium position in this sprint race. But at the moment, after the first corner, it does sit with Herman at the lead, but VSM Sandman less than 2 tenths behind him, heading through these corners. Goes a little bit wide there. I think it might have been a bit of a lag on my side of things, so apologies for that. It looks like he's going to try the inside line again as there's a yellow flag out in Sector 1, and I thought for a moment we might have been seeing a safety car, but I don't think that is going to be the case. As heading into the next couple of corners, we've got Herman still out in lead. VSM Sandman very close behind him as RS0121 takes a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting, despite the fact we've just been talking about how well he's been handling pre-season so far. Danger David makes it 5 positions, 6 positions now he's made since this sprint race got back underway. Within 1 lap, he's made those 6 positions. D. Perez goes wide into the final couple of corners on lap 1 of the restart of the sprint race. Going into the pit straight now onto the right hand side. Herman holds position. VSM Sandman looks like he's not going to have DRS for this though, but he might have a bit of traction. He looked like he'd got better grip going into that corner as well. As we go onto the pit straight, it does stay with Herman, who completes the first lap of the restart of the sprint race in first place. VSM Sandman less than a tenth of a second behind him. Goes up onto the inside though, tries to hold the line this time into the corner. He has the lead. lead. He holds the lead, and it is VSM Salman this time onto the outsiders. It's going to be Herman trying to gain that position back. Very close between the two of them. Salman looks like he's keeping that position as D. Perez capitalises on the inside, takes past Herman into second place. VSM Salman is now your current leader, but the three of them are still battling very tough into the next corner. Salman holds the inside position. Perez again trying to follow him through those corners, leaving Herman a little bit out in the cold, down in third place at the moment. Ivor now closer, trying to have a look, see if he can get onto a podium position, but VSM Salman holds out in first place as we continue around the next couple of corners into sector 2. D. Perez in second place. Excellent work from him, very patient to see where the gap was going to form for him, and Herman in third place as it stands.
It's raining now. I'm not sure how much it can affect the track and the tyres and everything in this next lap and a half or so. But yeah, let's add that into the mix now that the rain is starting to fall. But there was contact there. What do you think on first viewing? As Herman tried to overtake D. Perez but couldn't find the gap. Yeah, what do you think about that contact? Was it just a race incident, two drivers trying to gain that advantage, or do you think someone was potentially to blame there?
Yeah, I didn't see anything that looked deliberate. It could have just been a racing incident, as now Herman goes up onto the outside line for D. Perez, but he's going to have the inside line into this corner. See if he can take second place back from the Mercedes. It is going to be Herman that takes second place with a couple of corners left on this final lap of the sprint race. You're right, the rain does start to fall down. Whether this impacts what's going to happen on the race, I have no idea. 9 positions now gained for Danger David. He's moved up from 19th into 10th in the space of 2 laps. And don't forget that where people finish in this sprint race is where they will start for the actual race as well. Truxton moves up into 8th place. He's one of the drivers that pitted during the safety car as well. But we are on board with D. Perez, who I don't think is wanting to throw caution into the wind at the moment with only the last lap of the sprint race. VSM Salman out in first place at the moment, 1.2 seconds ahead of Herman. I think that little battle between Herman and D. Perez is kind of giving him that sort of leverage to be able to push himself further ahead, and it looks like he's going to finish the sprint race in first place. So some extra points on the board for VSM Salman, who started this in third place. Herman will start where he finished where he started as there. Go on.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I've got it on the stream, mate. Danger David, Evil, massive collision. I can't even tell you what's just happened. It was pure chaos, but I have managed to catch it on the stream. I don't even know. It happened so fast. But Danger David and Evil 32 are out of the sprint race. Someone spun. Evil spun. There was contact that made Evil spin. He was in the middle of the track. Danger David come flying around and took both of them out. So, yeah, chaotic last part there.
Well, Ivor is absolutely fuming, and Quincy has taken the fault for it. So Ivor has said, what the F, guys? We're going to keep it child-friendly on here because we haven't actually given any disclaimers. So Ivor has used explicit language to ask what's gone on, and Quincy has taken the fault for it. Quincy, I don't believe he's actually out of the race at the moment. He's up in 4th place, though, so he's going to start in 4th place. But it is VSM Salman that's going to start out in 1st, and I think it's very difficult to bet against that guy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I'm still trying to process what just happened there. Yeah, it was, like I said, I did catch it on the stream, fortunately. So I'll let you go back and review that one at a later date.
Well, Ivor said that he was hit by 2 people. Danger David said he was a bystander and there's nothing that he could do in it. So it does turn things around ever so slightly, because now all that work since the safety car went in this sprint race has been undone, as Danger David made his way up into 10th place before catapulting back into, I think he's going to start in 18th place at the end of it. We'll just check now for those that are watching the stream. He's down in 18th place is where he's going to start. Veruduko at the back of the grid. Ivor in 19th. So Quincy, who's took fault for this, will start up in 4th. The 2 drivers affected by this, who claim they were bystanders, 18th and 19th. What's your thoughts on that?
It should make for a good race, like I said earlier. Is it a race with Danger David if he's not climbing up the grid from towards the back? Normally he starts towards the top and then drops down, but he's got that first part out of the way, so he's got an head start, which I'm sure he'll try and see as a positive.
I think the point I was trying to make more was the guy that was claiming that he's at fault for it will start 4th. The 2 that had nothing to do with it are down at the back of the grid. So there's going to be some questions raised, I think, in maybe the inquiries that come afterwards. But the rain, in the matter of whatever it's taken from the sprint race, 24 hours, to the race time, The rain has gone. We are almost ready for the actual race to take place. We're on 50% skin. Who's going to win this race?
Sandman.
Yeah? That confident?
What are you saying? Well, you just asked who was going to win, so I took a breath, I thought about it. I'm committing Sandman. What about you?
I'm going to go with RS0121. I'm going to back him. I think he's had a very good pre-season. I think the way he's come into this race so far and approached it has been very steady, nothing silly. And I think he's kind of built his way up throughout the last couple of seasons where he's used to being at the back and, fighting forward. And I think that sort of experience with drivers that, with no disrespect to them, may not have that same sort of driver ability as some of the other drivers, will give him the advantage. So I'm going to go with RS0121 to win the race. I've gone for 3 different drivers so far, and all 3 have gone nowhere. So I apologise to RS0121 if the curse continues throughout the course of this race. The 50% race coming up for you in just a few moments' time. It is VSM Sandman on pole position, followed by Herman, and then in 3rd place we've got D. Perez. So the thoughts on D. Perez being the front runner for the Mercedes at the moment?
Sorry, mate.
You do this every single time. Stop having some water.
You literally just done the exact same thing to me again. I was like, swallowed it as you spoke, and I was like, ah.
So I'll let you get adjusted. We're about to start the race. It's fine. We've got a 50% lap race, no formation lap. So it is lights out, and we are underway with VSM Sandman out in 1st place in the McLaren. Herman up to the right-hand side of him may have the advantage, but Sandman cuts across immediately to make sure that advantage is nil, as D. Perez looks like he's going to be battling alongside Herman as well. He had the lead for a brief moment. It's going to be Sandman that holds that position. Herman is going to do the exact same as Frankie and Quincy are battling for 4th place at the moment, as VSM Sandman holds 1st place quite comfortably as well. Herman in 2nd at the moment, and D. Perez nothing suddenly from any of the front runners early on, and Cerebo has had a 10-second time penalty for exceeding track limits, so he hasn't just slightly cut a corner, he's cut an entire corner off. So he's took a 10-second time penalty, and during his pit stops he can get some of that time back as we go through the next couple of corners. On board with Herman in 2nd place, who is badgering at VSM Sandman to try and take 1st place away from him. D. Perez sat in 3rd place just at the moment watching, but that worked out as a benefit for him last time, as he just waited for that gap to form and took advantage when he could. As VSM Sandman now stays onto the outside line, Herman doesn't quite have enough track to be able to cut up the inside as we go around the final couple of corners in lap 1 of 36 of the Mexican Grand Prix, and barring any incident on this final corner, it looks like VSM Sandman is going to take the lead for the 1st lap entirely. Herman in 2nd place, D. Perez now in 3rd. VSM Sandman sets a 122.7, a lot of time off from what we saw during qualifying, as well as now it looks like Herman could go up onto the inside. Mate, please don't yawn while I'm doing commentary. It sounds like my commentary is boring, as VSM Sandman loses out on 1st place. Herman goes up onto the outside, takes 1st place away from VSM Sandman. There we go, into the next couple of corners. It is with Herman at the moment. So Herman takes the lead from the guy that you had down as the 1-2 winner. Is VSM Sandman in 2nd, Perez 3rd, Quincy 4th, Frankie 1811 in 5th place, Toxic in 6th, Ebor in 7th, Pleasant Snake close in 13th, as it is getting quite close between the 2 cars there of Quincy and Frankie, both battling valiantly. It's Quincy that currently holds the advantage in 4th place. That's the closest we've got anybody at the moment. It looks like he's just behind D. Perez as well. So I think that is, or was, the closest we'd got anybody at the moment. We're going to jump on board with Formula 1 Faro, who's the next closest. In 11th place, he is just behind Danger David in 10th, who is just behind Peter Caspi. And we've got a bit of a train forming in the battle for 8th place, for 7th place, should I say, at the moment. With a couple of cars as up goes on to the inside there, nearly an advantage gains, but Formula 1 Faro manages to get past Danger David, who's going to take the inside line to the next corner. It looks like the 2 nearly collided, and Formula 1 Faro is going to keep that position, and he's just lost it on the following corner to Danger David as we head round onto the pit straight. But it looked like the 2 cars were very close to a collision, and Formula 1 Faro takes that position back onto the pit straight. He keeps 10th place. Danger David now in 11th, but he's gained 8 positions since that incident earlier, and Ivor is now in 7th. RS0121, the guy that I had down to win it, I apologise, is in 20th place and having to pit after lap 2. So I think that says it all about how much of a curse I tend to be when predicting these, as Formula 1 Faro holds on to 10th place ahead of Danger David. We've got a couple of blue flags coming out at the moment already, which for lap 3 is practically unheard of.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm not sure what's happened there. Probably down to the needing to pit. Very close in this top four. I've been on board with Quincy since the start of the race, just to sort of have that eye in the front of the field, and they've had a couple of times of sort of getting close, but other than that, it's been really close by that top four. They've not really bridged the gap. Herman with a 1.8 second lead, that's sort of been the most that it's been so far, but that Sandman Deeper as Quincy train is very, very close for that race for a podium spot.
Oh, there's been a spin, Formula One Farah, and it looks like Kwan and Tobalenzen taking a hit. We're going to get a safety car, definitely. It looked like for a moment there, Formula One Farah, and I think it was Pleasant Snake, both spun on the exact same corner. It might have been Tark and Gino, and both facing sideways. It must have been Kwan and Tobalenzen that went straight into the side of him. Because of how they'd laid themselves across the track, it was practically impossible for the cars to get by him, and Kwan and Tobalenzen, with very few seconds to adjust themselves, went straight into the side of them, and they are out of the race. So lap 4, we're going to get a safety car here in Mexico. Welcome back to season 12 of the All Assists Off League, where Herman is the leader in race 1, BSM Sandman in second, D Perez in third. Now, with the safety car, a lot of cars have already passed the stop-start line, the pit entry line, if you will. It's an advantage for AAO who has pitted. Is anybody going to react? Do you think anybody should react and maybe pit 4 laps in?
Well, we've said before that typically we would take advantage of this and pit, but what we've seen during commentating on these races, the drivers haven't. They do try, I think, and stick to their pit strategy regardless as RS0121 leaves the race. So yeah, I don't think we'll see people pitting, especially this early in the race. I think, if you remember, drivers do tend in this league to try and stick to their usual pit strategy as much as possible and not sort of change it up because the safety cars come out.
Yeah, we'll be hearing from a couple of the drivers afterwards, and the ever charismatic Danger David will, I'm sure, be joining the post-race interviews. He's currently in 7th place up from 19th, so it's a great effort from him, but he's out on the hard tyres at the moment, so you wouldn't expect any change from him. I was thinking more along the likes of Formula One Farah, who we are on board with at the moment, Veriduco, Sir Ibo, all on the soft tyres at the moment, perhaps maybe going onto a tyre with a bit more longevity, thinking that, if you can go onto a hard tyre, you've got a good 20-30 laps to make that last.
I just think it's too early, especially with how these are not drivers that tend to sort of play it safe or sensible. They're all in a position where they could be getting a podium spot, pushing for that top spot. So I think you want to get the most out of the tyres that you've got on at the time, especially during this safety car. Sort of 3 or 4 laps or so, you can look after them and get a little bit more. So yeah, I can't see anyone wanting to put hards on and potentially have to pit again with quite a few laps to go.
Well, as it stands, we've completed 1 lap under the safety car and nobody has pitted as of yet. And we're just waiting for the last couple of cars to catch up, and I think that is going to be Truckster and Racing Wheel are the final 2 cars to catch up to the safety car. Maybe a couple more corners before that is completed. So we have seen an excellent rise from Danger David and from Evil 32, both of which went out at the final parts of the sprint race, making their way up into the top 10 quite comfortably, and are now in very strong position to be competing with some of the higher points at the moment. But D Perez has held 3rd place quite nicely, been under a little bit of pressure from Quincy, but he's also applied a little bit of pressure to Sandman and Herman. He doesn't look out of place racing at the front, does he?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And it's good to see Quincy up there as well. 4th place. I think the 4 that he's in the top 5 with, we do tend to see up there. Quincy in the past has sort of been a 7th to 10th kind of driver, so good to see that he started that high despite the potential controversy at the end of the sprint race, and has more than held his own in and amongst these drivers so far. Safety car is in this lap, so let's see what chaos we get going into those first couple of corners.
Well, I'm going to jump on board with D Perez, as we've got Herman that is going to be the pace setter going round onto the pit straight in just a moment's time. and hopefully we'll get some very good racing heading into the first couple of corners. We'll jump on board with Herman then as he starts the race for us, or restarts the race in lap 6. In first place at the moment, Subo has fallen down straight away into 17th place. We've got a yellow flag out in sector 1. Herman goes round into the first corner. Saman has a look up the inside, not quite enough track for him though. He has to sit back in second place. D. Perez is still knocking at the door to try and take that second place away from him, as Saman is now closer to third place than he is to first after 2 corners as it stands at the moment since the race restarted. He's going to try and once again, as D. Perez looks like he's going to go up the inside. He's taken a spin across the track. He's gone straight into the back of Quincy as well. Quincy takes third place. Evo's continued as well as D. Perez falls down into 6th place. It looked like he caught the chicane on that corner, spun off, and I think it was Quincy that he actually caught, because Evo has moved ahead of him into 3rd place at the moment. We'll jump on board with Quincy just to see if any more. Yeah, he's got no front wing at the moment, so he's going to be forced to pit from this situation. From the medium tyres, I probably assume he's going to go onto the hard tyres to try and see us through to the end of the race. But that damage from what D. Perez had just caused there might put an end to Quincy's race. Of course, Quincy taking D. Perez a seat at the end of last season. He's now under pressure from Peter Caspi, who's gone off track onto the outside. D. Perez has gone up onto the inside to take his position back up into 4th place, as Quincy now loses out to Peter Caspi. He falls down into 6th place, and Peter Caspi, he's trying to actually battle with Peter Caspi at the moment, despite not having a front wing. So a great effort from him as Perez moves himself back up into 4th place and recovers nicely position-wise from the little spin that he's just had there as well. I'll let you tell me now just what's been going on from your side.
Yeah, it's just been sort of that pack there, including Quincy and Danger David and other drivers, and fair play, some fantastic driving to avoid any collisions. Really did look like it was getting a bit tighter. Struggles to retires from the session there, down in 15th place. So yeah, it looked like there were the odd tiny bit of contact, but not enough where there was any sort of issues. But yeah, just good racing all round really, and good driving.
4 retirements in 7 laps. May we actually see a race where more people are going to be retirees than we're going to actually see finish the race, as we've got D. Perez currently sat in 4th place, who I'm on board with at the moment. We are going to jump elsewhere though, onto board with Frankie 1811, who is down in 7th place at the moment. He's just behind Formula 1 Fares. There's another spin there, and it's Peter Caspi that's gone off, and I don't know if there was a collision alongside that. We'll jump on board quickly with Peter Caspi as he tries to readjust himself onto the track. He's done so, but he's fallen down to 11th place in the process, and now we've got a couple of other overtakes taking place between Toxic and Pleasant Snake going round into this corner. It's a 4-car race as we've got 3-second time penalty for Tarkan Gino. As it stands at the moment, we're on board with Toxic in 6th place. DRS has been enabled heading on to the pit straight at the moment. Toxic, Frankie 1811, Formula 1 Farah and Pleasant Snake all battling for 5th place, and I think now there's starting to be a bit of an advantage there as Formula 1 Farah falls down to 9th place. Toxic and Pleasant Snake both getting past him.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to keep up with everything that was happening there. Danger David drops down to 9th as Pleasant Snake overtakes. Yeah, tell you what, a couple of incidents and a couple of drivers spinning, but seeing how close. Whoa! Pleasant Snake just spun there, and to be honest, I don't think there was any contact. It just kind of spun. So
a lot of cars seem to be struggling. I'm not sure if this is an upgrade thing. Because since the upgrade, there tends to be a lot here where people are struggling with the grip. You know, we've seen D. Perez come off for absolutely no reason. Pleasant Snake you've just seen come off for no reason. I think Danger David did at one point as well. There's a lot of cars that are coming off at the moment. Yeah,
like I said, that one there, it was close to the driver in front, but I don't think there was contact. Kind of took that right turn, straightened up, and then the car kicked out right. So yeah, there does seem to be some sort of grip or tyre issues, whether that's due to the update, I'm not sure. But yeah, I completely agree. We do seem to be seeing it a little bit more than what we normally would, especially this early into a race.
So we are on lap 9, and I don't think it's because of the tyre wear that we're looking at any of these sort of incidents at the moment, but the closest we've got is 4 tenths behind, and that is Formula 1 Farah, who is just behind Tarkan Gino. Looks like he's got DRS now. He's going to maybe go up onto the inside line for him if he's got space, but also Tarkan Gino has DRS on Danger David. He's going to try it anyway, and he might just have the advantage. Nope, just not quite enough track for him there, but he might have a bit more He has got a bit more onto the next corner. He just seems to have broke a little bit later there and taken 8th place away from Tarkangino. So he's just behind Danger David at the moment. Falls out of DRS zone with him. Tarkangino still in DRS of Formula 1 Farah, fighting up into 8th place as it stands. So we are still with Herman out in the lead now, a 3-second lead from VSM Sandman. Ivor in 3rd place, D Perez in 4th, Frankie 1811 in 5th. Those are your top 5. Any real surprises there, Skin?
I don't think so. As such, your Frankies and your Toxics maybe a little bit lower down at times. Like top 4 is pretty much solid with what we've seen in the past. So no, I don't think I'm looking anywhere to say, oh wow, they're absolutely smashing it compared to usual. I think we've seen that everyone has ability in this league. That's why they're in this league in the first place. So, yeah, do you disagree with that? Is there anyone that you think deserves sort of highlighting?
I think Ivor. For me, Ivor deserves the main highlight. He's up into 2nd place now. He's just got past VSM Sandman, and Sandman's fallen a bit further back now as well. He seems to be struggling. It looks like D Perez is battling with him at the moment. He's going to have to do a lot of defending because he's also got Frankie 1811 there, and he's gone a little bit wide onto the grass. So we'll jump on board with D Perez. It looks like maybe Frankie's fallen a little bit behind as Toxic gets past him as well. VSM Sandman seems to be struggling. The one I want to highlight is Ivor now. I'm not going to say that he doesn't deserve to be in 2nd or he's somebody that I didn't expect to be in 2nd until I saw the end of the sprint race when he was starting in 18th place, and I thought, you know what, by lap 10 I don't expect Ivor to be up in 2nd place, nearly a second clear of VSM Sandman. But here we are, 10 laps in, and Ivor is up in 2nd place, nearly a second quicker than VSM Sandman, who now has a bit of an advantage over D Perez. I don't know what happened to Sandman there, but he fell about 3 seconds behind what he were from Herman now, and Herman will happily take that out in 1st place at the moment. No team, but he's currently leading the Drivers' Championship as it stands at the moment, and I think that says it all for you, doesn't it? A lot of teams will be looking now to snap up Herman in preparation for next season. It surprised me that he didn't get that this season, but it's one of those questions, isn't it? It's like the Macaulay Langstaff. Is he going to actually improve, or is it a one-season wonder and you just want to see? And it looks like it's pure talent from Herman, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. What are your thoughts? I think one of the big stories from this race so far is Sandman. Obviously, you asked me at the start of the race, who do I think will win? I said him. Who do you think will get pole in qualifying? I said him. He's not really a driver that we've seen in this position. Currently in 3rd place, he's 15 or so seconds off of the lead. Well, sorry, about just under 14 seconds off of the lead. It's not a position that we're used to seeing Sandman in. He's very much been a get ahead early, stay ahead, and increase that gap. We've seen him have the odd battle at the front with your Danger Davids, with Jonesy, who was here for a short time. Obviously, Herman in the previous race as well, in which we commentated on, but I don't recall a time we've seen him in 3rd place. I know he's finished 3rd, but they've not tended to be in races that we've commentated on as Race and Wheel and Pleasant Snake battle for 9th spot. So yeah, Sandman currently now 14 seconds still off of 1st place, not a position that we're used to seeing him in. Yeah, what do you think this does for him in terms of his approach for going into the 2nd, 3rd of the race?
I think he's got to look at the strategy now. I think he expects himself to be out in 1st place, if not 2nd, by this point. But then he's also got to not make a knee-jerk decision. It's easy to panic in these situations and decide I need to pit now and get fresh tyres on, maybe quicker tyres to push forward. But now we have a safety car coming out. I'm not quite sure just what's happened where, but we'll find out and let you know when we do. But there is a safety car coming out, and maybe now this is his chance. He's going to get closer to Ivor, he's going to get closer to Herman, but he's currently the right distance away that he can see what they're going to do, if they're going to pit, if they're going to stay out, and he can react accordingly. But Ivor has just taken a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car, and that could be a game changer. Yeah,
definitely. Just having a look now, drivers towards sort of the back of the grid, middle of the grid, towards the back of the grid have pitted. Those front sort of 5 or 6 cars had already gone past the pit entrance by the time the safety car came out, so I don't know if that could potentially change their plans. Now people have managed to jump in the pit and take advantage of that early doors. Who knows? Herman will be the first to get there as he's going round, or he's about to go around the penultimate corner now. Let's see if he decides to pit. Will be very interesting to see.
Okay, well, this is what I mean. There's enough time for him to be able to react depending on what people choose to do. Tarkangino is into the pits from 16th place. I don't think he's going to be able to unlap himself, so he's going to hope that a couple of these do go into the pits, and I think Herman is going to be the first one to do so. Herman heads into the pits. Ivor, I think he's going to take his drive-through penalty now, isn't he? While some of the cars are pitting. Yep. So I don't know if this is going to count as a pit or if it's going to count as a drive-through. I'll just jump on board with him and let you know.
You can't do a drive-through under the safety car, can you?
I'm not sure, actually. So would the 3 laps... No, he's pitting. So would the 3 laps start from when the safety car goes in?
Yeah, I would assume so. I'm sure you've said before you can't do it because obviously the cars are going slow, aren't they? So you're benefiting from doing it under a safety car, so...
Yeah. It absolutely makes sense. It makes sense doing that. But there we go. D. Perez comes out of his pit stop as well, up in 4th place onto the hard tyres. VSM Sandman, the interesting fact here, VSM Sandman goes onto the soft tyres. Do you think for him this is all about get track position, get the advantage, and then pit again? Because I can't see a scenario where those soft tyres are going to last him another 23 laps.
No, I can't see it either, but like I said earlier, his strength is in getting ahead, staying ahead, and increasing that gap in which he is ahead. So, yeah, maybe that is the case once the safety car comes in, especially now Herman's on hard tyres, Ivor's on mediums. He should, in theory, have that speed advantage. So, again, you're looking at, what, a 22-ish second pit stop. Can Sandman get ahead of Herman early doors, really, really push for sort of, say, 15 or so laps while Herman's on those hard tyres, you know, and get a gap that's big enough where you can get that free pit stop, jump onto maybe more fresh softs or mediums, whatever that is, see out the rest of the race and not have to worry about the gap. So, yeah, you can only assume that that's his strategy and could potentially play into his hands with the fact that Herman's on hard tyres.
Yeah, I was just about to point out that you said about how Ivor's on those medium. Ivor's also obviously got a drive-through penalty to serve, and on the back of a safety car, that's probably the worst time to get one, isn't it? Because that's going to punt him straight to the back. He's going to be behind everybody. It's not like when you get a drive-through penalty, you can just take it straight away, is it? And, you know, you come out, maybe lose 3 or 4 positions. Under a safety car, you're going to lose all the positions. And he'll drop down and he'll come out in 16th place. And I think that's unquestionable. So at that point, VSM Sandman automatically is elevated up into 2nd place. On those soft tyres, you know, up against Herman, I think, you know, 4 or 5 corners in, there's only one car that's going to be getting that, and especially with DRS assistance, VSM Sandman's going to get that advantage. So it's all about where he pits. But I think the other advantage for him is when he chooses to pit, he might fall a little bit behind Herman, but he can always pit for the medium tyres, which will still be able to keep up with Herman, if not be quicker, but still have the time to see him through to the end of the race. Whereas Herman will be on the older, harder tyres, which might not have that as much of an advantage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Just off topic slightly before we get back into the race, obviously the drivers are using their own cars due to the current issues or bugs, whatever you want to call it, that we've got at the moment. I'm assuming, or I can only assume, that you're going to be cheering Sandman on. He's gone for a very McLaren-esque colour scheme. I don't know if you've seen it, but... I don't know if you want to give your thoughts on. Yeah, I don't know if you want to give your thoughts on some of the. I can't think what the word is. What's the word?
Attire.
The skins,
livery.
Attire. Livery. That's it. The liveries that the drivers have chose. Now we've got the opportunity to see them with the current issues. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Sandman's livery in Mexico today?
I've already commented on it. Thank you for paying attention. I told you about the orange and blue combination. Oh, right. It's one of my more favourite. It's one of my more preferred liveries from recent years of the McLaren. I like the orange and blue combination, despite the fact I was always told it's not a pair of colours that ever go together. Don't ever wear orange and blue clothes together. But McLaren have upset the status quo in that field, and I'm more than happy to go ahead with that. It does look like we're going to get the safety car for another lap. I'm not a big fan of the livery that Ivor has got on. I'm just having a look at some of the other cars as they start to make their way through. Otherwise, it just looks like everyone's gone from... I like the one just ahead of Peter Caspi. I think it's Formula 1 Farah. I like the one. I'm going to jump on board with it now. I think it is Formula 1 Farah. It's not going to let me go very close to him. But if I jump on board, you can see it ever so slightly. I feel like it's got a very Saved by the Bell theme behind it, if I'm looking at the right one.
Means. Like I know the program, but I don't know how that translates.
You know the intro video to Saved by the Bell, the little squiggles and the proper 60s or 80s or whatever you want to call it look that he had there. I think it's got that sort of look around it, and I like it. What about you? Any ones that stand out for you?
Well, someone, I'm just working my way back down the grid now, and no matter look, it'll be a driver that's out, but had a, oh, there it is, Quincy has got Verstappen.com on his rear wing, so assuming that's got to be a favourite.
Well, I
Nice
think
colour
if you're going
scheme
to
as
have
well,
anything on a oh, it's Red Bull. I thought it was a Mercedes for a moment.
No, it's gone full Red Bull in terms of like the sponsorship and stuff. So it'd only be fair that I picked that as my favourite livery, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I'm just going to check Verstappen.com and see what we get. Is this a thing, or is this just something that is manually created? It is actually a website. For Max Verstappen has his own website called Verstappen.com, and you can buy all of his t-shirts on there, his hats, his helmet for $164 if you've got that knocking about. You've got canvases, you've got a lot available for Max Verstappen, so he's got his own website skin for you. As we are about to get back underway, Herman is the pace setter for us, so we'll jump on board with him. I strongly suspect Evil will head into the pits as we go round onto the pit straight, which will have VSM Sandman to quickly gain second place. It's all about the heat they've managed to get into these tyres, as Quincy gets a 5-second time penalty. I think there's been some brake testing going on in the build-up to the restart on the back of safety car number 2 in the first race of season 12 of the All Assist Soft League, as Evo stays out and VSM Sandman is going to go straight up the inside and waste no time trying to take second place away from him, but he is forced to go back behind him heading into turn 1. Herman will do everything he can to try and get as much of an advantage, knowing that the driver behind him is on quicker tyres, as Sandman again tries to go up the inside but is forced to stay back in third place. Evo holds second from him at the moment, and all Herman will be hoping is Evo holds second place till at least the end of this lap, to allow him to get a bit of an advantage on VSM Sandman in the McLaren. He's going to try and hold that corner again. Goes just in front of Evo to stop any sort of overtake opportunities there. Evo would love to get first place before he has to pit as well. Gives him a bit more of an advantage, as Peter Caspi now has a 3-second time penalty from down further in the track as well. Danger Dave moves up into 6th place. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen, Toxic gets past Racing Wheel into 7th as well. We are on board with Herman, who is the current race leader, as Tarkangino retires from the race. And we've got another safety car. Here we go. What else can we talk about for the sake of the next couple of laps as we see Herman out there at the moment? We've got, it's an opportunity now for Serbo on those soft tyres though to box.
Yeah, I mean, we've just had our safety car conversation, and so I don't really know what have you had for tea, Aggie? I'm very hungry.
I haven't.
What have you had?
I haven't. I got back from work a little bit late. Obviously, I've been doing a lot of fitness stuff lately, so I walked back from work. It was a nice 45-minute walk, and I haven't eaten yet, so my food time was going to come after this race, but this race could be prolonged for the next 3 to 5 working days, depending on how many more safety cars we get to see, and I might just be going a little bit hungry for a while. How about you?
Exactly the same, mate. I thought short bit of time between finishing work and jumping on for this, so I thought, I'll have something after, and if anyone's watching, come on lads, let's get this done, because we're hungry. So you're adding about an extra 20 minutes at the moment to this overall race time with how many pit stops how many safety cars we're getting. So I feel like we're all out of safety car related conversation when we can't comment on the race, because they're not racing at the moment. So yeah,
we're just getting to the halfway point of this race, and Evil, now this is the thing that I'm not sure, so you might have to confirm whether this is the rule or not. So we've established that Herman cannot pit. Evil cannot do his drive-through penalty during the safety car. That's absolutely fine. But then the race restarted for a lap. Now, with the safety car coming back out, does that then restart, or does it mean that Evil has 2 laps now to get himself in the pits?
I would say, considering this, obviously my argument earlier for lapsing goes out the window, because you would assume that at this point in time that drivers would start to look at pitting depending on their strategy. So yeah, I would be very surprised. I mean, Evo's going to probably hold the record for the longest time raced before, or longest amount of laps driven before serving a drive-through penalty, because as we mentioned earlier, you can't do it under a safety car. So at this point, he's going to have had a drive-through penalty for about 10 laps, which is surely going to be a new record.
Yeah, you're only allowed 3 laps, aren't you? It has to be served within 3 laps, otherwise you are disqualified. We have seen the exit of Tarkangino, Truckster, Quan 23 and Tobalenzen and RS0121 already in this race, and we are only halfway there. We could see the exact same amount go again, and we'd have everybody finishing, guaranteeing at least a point. We do still have, of course, Suribo in 15th place, Quincy now in 14th, T. Brown in 13th, Veriduco in 12th, Peter Caspi in 11th, Formula 1 Far in 10th, Frankie 1811 in 9th, Racing Wheel in 8th, Toxic CZ10 in 7th, Danger David up into 6th place, D. Perez in 5th, Pleasant Snake in 4th, BSM Sandman in 3rd, Evo in 2nd, and Herman out in 1st. So, Skin, you said that you think that Sandman is going to be the race winner. He's out there on soft tyres at the moment. Do you think this safety car is really hindering that strategy that he went for by going in for those soft tyres?
Well, yeah, definitely. We can only assume and put out theories, but we would assume that the point was safety car comes in and he absolutely blitzes it for 10 to 15 laps. That's what we said during the previous safety car window. That obviously goes out of the window. How much does it hinder him, or how much does that sort of window close for him with the safety car out? I'm not sure, because as you just mentioned there is still a whole second half of the race to go. We've lost 5 drivers in that first half. We've had 3 or 4 safety cars in that first half. So, we assume that we keep up that trend, and we're going to have another 3 or 4 safety cars in the second half, and we're going to lose another 5 drivers. But safety car is in on this lap. Hopefully we get a good bit of race in there. I don't think we completed a full lap before the safety car came out again. So if we get maybe 4 or 5 uninterrupted laps now, we could see how the strategies of each of the drivers plays out. But also we have got Evo in second place, but unfortunately I do think we have to discount him slightly, knowing that he's got that drive-through penalty to serve. So let's see how we get on as the race restarts.
I imagine this is going to be served at the end of this lap, but as it stands, it is Herman out in front place at the moment. VSM Sandman looks like he's going to try again to get up the inside of Evo, but he's not going to manage to do so. He's not got enough track to do so either. He might just sit patiently and wait for that moment when Evo goes in, instead of wasting his tyres pushing at the moment. Bear in mind, these soft tyres, of course, don't have the same lifespan. As up on the inside goes Evo onto the inside of Herman. Actually, it's called the outside on the next lap, but on the next corner, should I say. He's forced onto the outside for the preceding corner as well, and Herman holds first place as Evo looked like he was ready to take first place away from him just for a couple of corners. Now Pleasant Snake gets a 3-second time penalty as well for corner cutting. We are on lap 19 of 36 in Mexico in this All Assists Off-League Season 12 Race 1. Welcome back if you are just joining us. Herman out in first place at the moment, Evo second, VSM Sandman down in third place. He's very close though, and it looks like now he's starting to mount some sort of offense to try and get past him with a couple of corners left. I think this might be where we get to see Evo enter into the pit lane, and it means we'll have about a second that separates VSM Sandman from first place. Is Evo going to go in? He is going to go in and serve that drive-through penalty now, just before another safety car comes out, but he'll be hoping for a safety car, and the only people hoping for more safety cars than Evo at the moment is the local takeaway that I'm going to be ordering from if this race doesn't finish soon. VSM Sandman in second place at the moment now, just under a second behind Herman, who's out on the hard tyres that have currently lasted 7 laps, and I think these soft tyres that VSM Sandman's had could probably go a little bit further than what the lifespan originally suggested, based upon the fact that about 5 of those 7 laps have been done behind a safety car.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, mate. I was just reading something very quickly there. I'll be honest. Sandman isn't really closing the gap, is he, considering the difference in tyres?
No, I don't know if he's waiting for an opportunity when maybe DRS is enabled. He's keeping it within a second. He's just not letting it drop too far, and he's hoping maybe that DRS will allow him, with the extra 10 miles per hour that he can get, the advantage to get past Herman once it's been re-enabled again. Evo, having served his drive-through penalty, falls down into 14th place, but he gets past Veriduco up into 13th place almost imminently on his way out as well. 16 laps left to go here in Mexico as VSM Sandman heads round onto the pit straight just behind Herman, still within DRS if that opportunity does present itself to him, as Herman hits sets of 1:20.029. That's the fastest lap of the race so far, out there on hard tyres, which tends to be a bit of a surprise. And up into turn 1 then, and VSM Sandman is not even close to competing with Herman at the moment. So maybe those tyres aren't going to have the same sort of benefit as he was hoping. Here he is then, Danger David just behind his teammate D. Perez. Both of them around 3.5 seconds behind VSM Sandman and Herman, which in the space of a lap is absolutely outrageous to have fallen that far behind. But the two of them probably comfortable in 3rd and 4th place. And I look forward to the moment that Danger David once again tells me it's all about the team. 7 tenths separates the two Mercedes from each other at the moment. And you'd probably say let them race on race 1, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would, but unfortunately things get in the way. Danger David, by the way, up into 4th place, and around half a second behind D. Perez, his former teammate.
His current teammate.
His current team. Well, are they current teammates? Because I'm just basing it on the liveries today.
No, they're both at Mercedes.
Well, it doesn't look like it today, so I'm only going based off of that. As he takes the inside there, going into penultimate corner, and Danger David, starting from 18th, is now up into 3rd. It's the Danger David way, isn't it, of starting from the bottom and climbing the way through the grid. We've seen it time and time again. Bit of a gap, 5.6 seconds between him and Sandman for second, but you've got to assume that he's very happy with that performance so far, claiming, as it stands, that final podium spot, starting from 18th. And again, I'm back on track, or I'm back on board, should I say, with Sandman. Close the gap a little, but not really putting in a position to overtake at the moment.
No, we've got a 3-second time penalty there for Formula 1 Farah, who is currently in 7th place at the moment on those medium tyres. Danger David, as you said, in 3rd place. I think D. Perez was maybe a little bit generous when the two were competing for a position there as well. And I think he went a little bit too wide. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I think it was a little bit too casually moving aside to let Danger David by, who is currently nearly 6 seconds behind VSM Sandman, who is 7 tenths behind Herman at the moment. And he's starting to get those soft tyres burning a little bit, and there's a chance now for him to get the overtake, heading round onto the pit straight. Of course, Herman has pitted onto those hard tyres that will surely see him through to the end of the race. VSM Sandman opted for the soft tyres, but at the moment it seems like the hard tyres may have in fact been the better option to go for. The pit stop for Sandman at the moment would probably drop him into around about ninth place, I'd say, comfortably, as he opens up DRS on the pit straight now. See if he can attack with Herman, who goes into the first corner. I don't think he's going to get quite close enough, as Herman somehow managed to get himself over a second lead after the DRS detection zone. So he managed to gain that leverage there a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah, so I'm just on board with Quincy as he moves up in 8th place. Just looking up and down the grid. Evo served that drive-through penalty. Ow, sorry. Yeah, just looking up and down the grid. Toxic 5th place at the moment. Little bit of a train between Danger David, D. Perez and Toxic, but enough of a gap where there shouldn't be too many sort of incidents or issues. We might get some racing, but this soft tyre against hard tyre strategy is not paying off at the moment for Sandman.
There we go. Well, he's in 2nd place now, a 2.5 seconds behind Herman. And I think a lot of credit has to go to Herman for how he's approached this one with, of course, the strategy, keeping out on the hard tyres, and it seems to be working out in his favour. The two Mercedes keeping themselves very close to each other in 3rd and 4th place, respectively. Danger David maybe trying to get closer to VSM Sandman, as I'm on board with Quincy at the moment, 4 tenths behind Pleasant Snake, who is out in 7th place. In a battle for 6th place at the moment, with Formula 1 Farah sat a little bit further ahead of them as well, and Frankie 1811 looks like he's going to join in the battle. As just for a moment there, it looked like maybe Quincy was going to get the advantage as Pleasant Snake goes into the pits. We stay on board with Quincy, who's now up into 7th place, battling alongside Frankie 1811 and Pleasant Snake, who is down in 9th place. Heading into turn 1, stay on board with Quincy then. 3 cars battling for 6th place, and I think, yep, it's just not going to be enough track. They run out, and Quincy has to stay in 7th place at the moment. We'll not jump on board with the Mercedes of D. Perez, because I think the battle between him and Danger David is more of a little teammate fling at the moment than anything else, but we'll stay on board with Pleasant Snake, who I think has just fallen quite far behind the others as well. He has dropped quite a bit behind from that pit stop. So Frankie 1811 is where we'll jump in 8th place at the moment. He's the closest to an overtake, and he's very close to Quincy up in 7th place. As we head through Sector 2 at the moment, Herman stands out in the lead on 11 laps on hard tyres. Sandman second, 11 laps on the soft tyres, and Danger David now third place on the medium tyres. So three very different strategies for the three cars out in front at the moment, as DRS has been enabled, and Frankie 1811 intends to make the best of that opportunity, and he does so by closing the gap on Quincy heading through the final few corners of the lap. VSM Sandman gets a time penalty and heads into the pits, so we'll see just what happens here. And I think that penalty may have been for speeding in the pit lane. I'm just going to check on that, just see where that time penalty is going to come from, or has come from, should I say. And VSM Sandman is speeding in the pit lane, so he gets a 5-second time penalty, which I imagine would be cut off at the next pit stop or added on to the final part, as he's come out in 8th place on those soft tyres. It means Danger David moves up into 2nd place, 10 seconds behind Herman, and it means it is currently a Mercedes 2-3. Of course, the defending Drivers' Champion and the defending Constructors' Championship in 2nd and 3rd place, respectively. Herman, though, very comfortably out in the lead with 11 laps left to go in this Mexican Grand Prix. Toxic down in 4th place, and we'll jump on board back with Quincy at the moment, who is just behind Formula 1 Farah, and I think, other than T-Brown getting past Racing Wheel, is the closest we've got to an overtake. We'll try jumping on board with Racing Wheel, see if there's going to be a return overtake there. Heading through the halfway point of Sector 1, about to start into Sector 2, and another DRS zone on the way as well. And we've got teammates battling between Racing Wheel and Veriduco at the back of the track, 14th and 15th place respectively, into the final 10 laps of the race. And the advantage that Herman has at the moment is phenomenal. So we'll jump on board with VSM Sandman, see if he can try and close the gap on any of those cars that he's just lost the time for by pitting for those soft tyres. But the next car ahead of him is Frankie 1811, and if you can find him, Quincy isn't too far ahead as well, and Formula 1 Farah really isn't too far ahead than that. And if he can use these soft tyres to his advantage, there's no reason why he couldn't be back competing for a top 3 position by the end of this race. He's in 8th place at the moment. Let's jump on board with Frankie then in the meantime, who is just behind Quincy and Formula 1 Farah in a 3-way battle for 5th place. We've got Frankie 0.8 seconds behind Quincy, heading in towards DRS detection zone, just a little bit around a couple of corners for them, and that DRS will be enabled on the end of Sector 3 as D. Perez gets a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. At the moment, that will move him down into 4th place. Frankie 1811 now with a 3-second time penalty, as we just saw that on screen, as he got a multiple warnings for corner cutting, so the penalties are coming in thick and fast at the moment. But VSM Sandman has caught up almost imminently within the next lap. As I mentioned, he's got past Frankie 1811 and he's up into 7th place at the moment. As I mentioned at the time, VSM Sandman gets past him, he's not too far away from Quincy in 6th place, and then the sky very much is the limit for these new soft tyres of the McLaren car as he goes onto the inside, heading onto the pit straight. He gets the position of Quincy, takes 6th place away from him, and he's going to have DRS as well, because he had it at the detection zone where he was just behind Quincy at the time. So this might actually enable him to keep that lead ahead of Quincy going into turn 1, and might help him also close the gap on Formula 1 Farah, who doesn't have the assistance of DRS, as goes into turn 1. There's a couple of cars there, and I think there's been a collision with the Haas, and there's been a collision there with the next Haas as well. Frankie 1811 and Quincy both colliding there as VSM Sandman comes out of that almost unscathed in 6th place at the moment. Skin your back, you told us what you saw.
Just on board there, just 3 cars going into what is quite a tight corner at the same time, that left-right, and just a bit of contact which meant Quincy spun, has undone the good progress that he's made. So Sandman at the moment, it seems like everything's working in his favour ahead of him as he tries to climb back up the grid, as rain starts to fall on the track. We've got 9 laps left. Could that potentially play a factor if it comes down in, say, 4 or 5 laps time? It's really heavy. Well, we could see some late pit stops here if this continues, because it does look quite dark in the clouds, and it's not light rain already.
Late pit stops, safety cars. Formula 1 is back as Sandman goes up onto the inside of Formula 1 Farah. This time he keeps that position, goes up into 5th place as Toxic gets past Danger David and D. Perez, who have gone back to back in the Mercedes. They've pitted at the same time onto the intermediate tyres together. Quincy is boxing for intermediate tyres now, so Danger David and Perez, no time looks to be lost from the two Mercedes there. That is incredible work from the Mercedes pit crew there. Danger David comes out, of course, ahead of D. Perez, but now they've got Pleasant Snake separating the two of them, but they're on intermediate tyres, as is Quincy, down in 10th place, and Evil also now in 9th place goes on to these, as Peter Caspi gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane as he heads in potentially to go on to the intermediate tyres as well. The front runners stay out on hard soft, so Sandman now up into 3rd place as it stands at the moment, but cars behind him are on intermediate tyres. So the risk and the risk card, should I say, the Joker card if you will, has been played maybe a little bit too early, do you think?
Yeah, so just flicking up and down the track now, it's coming down, isn't it? So you've got to assume that with so many laps left. Although saying that, Sandman doesn't seem to be having any issues as he's gone. Oh, I say that he's gone very wide on that corner. Got to be pitting now.
Herman
has gone in. Yeah, here we go. Here we go.
This is where it all becomes interesting. That rain has come from absolutely nowhere, and it has come viciously. So Sandman is going to have to pit from 2nd place. He's probably going to be followed in there by Toxic. That's exactly what's going to happen. And Sandman may even... Oh, he nearly hits the wall on his way in there as well, as DRS has now been disabled. This is the point when I'm playing the game where I'm like, right, that's it, DRS is disabled, I'm getting into the pits. Normally, Jeff's already told me 4 times to pit for softs at this point, and I've ignored him. But it's absolutely fine. We forgive him. As we jump on board with Danger David going round onto the pit straight, see where he gets his position back. He will get 2nd place back ahead of Toxic and ahead of Formula 1 Farah. D. Perez may just follow through. He has followed through as well into 3rd place as well. So the Mercedes take 2nd and 3rd place back after that pit. And that decision to pit for the soft tyres from VSM Sandman now looks like an absolute nightmare, considering some of the other cars have also boxed. And that rain couldn't have come at a worse time, could it?
No, it should throw it wide open. I mean, the track has reset a little bit. Sandman, again, as we say, was flying through. So in the same conditions as everyone else, on dry tyres like everyone else, could potentially, if he can keep up that good form, we'll climb back up. But if it's not a safety car, if it's not collisions, if it's not something, Rain thinks, right, there's a few laps left. Let's start chucking it down, see what that can do.
Well, Peter Caspi has got back-to-back penalties for speeding in the pit lane, so maybe just slow down a little bit is my suggestion there, because happening once may be an error, happening twice just seems like you've forgot which side the brake is on. So there we go. Danger David now with a 3-second time penalty for cutting corners, I believe, and I don't think he really cut many corners there. But
who was that, sorry?
Danger David.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure on that one, sorry.
Multiple warnings, but you know those S's that you go around, similar to that of Silverstone, if you catch that slightly wrong, you go off the track, and in the rain it is unforgiving, and when you do it, it's going to give you a penalty, and it's done that for Danger David. At the moment, Danger David and D. Perez both have 3-second, at the least, time penalties on the board. I'm just going to check what their penalties actually sit at. It is 3 seconds for both of those. VSM Sandman will gain the advantage of 5th place, because Formula 1 Farah currently has a 3-second time penalty as well. Sandman is currently 7 seconds ahead of Frankie 1811, but he is also just behind Formula 1 Farah. We are 6 laps away from the end of the race, and it is starting to pick up even more rain, and maybe not for wet tyres, surely not for wet tyres. I can see a bit of skidding there from Formula 1 Farah, surely not.
No, sorry mate, I'm just flicking up and down, so I was just trying to keep track of different things as you were speaking there, so apologies. I don't think you just mentioned Formula 1 Farah there. Oh, Sandman went very slow there. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe it bottled an attempt at the overtake. Formula 1 Farah is all over the place. There you go. Sandman overtakes. Yeah, Formula 1 Farah is really struggling in the rain at the moment.
Yeah, but it's intermediate tyres. I mean, at what point do you maybe look at that and think they're the wrong tyres and you go for wets? Because the rain's just come down ferociously. Out of nowhere, then Sandman goes wide on that corner as well, and now he's got a couple of cars ahead of him that have 3-second time penalties, and with 5 laps to go, he's going to be looking straight forward now with the intention to get past him, as Formula 1 Farah gets another 3-second time penalty on top of the one that he got not too long ago. Quincy also getting himself a 3-second time penalty on there as well, keeping the stewards busy in this race environment. So Sandman needs 3/10 to get himself ahead of Toxic. I will give credit to something. Now, I know Sandman does fight valiantly, and I get it, and a lot of the time he does make silly decisions, and sometimes that can be costly for him. But in the rain, he's incomparable.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on Herman, I mean, is there going to be a petition for a place on the grid, or like what effects on the league? Like, what's going to happen there? Dominant win, like, could end up being poached somewhere else at this rate with these performances.
Yeah, you've got to think there's going to be a couple of teams out there at the moment that think, you know what, I could have in my mind. There's got to be a couple of teams that at the moment are just sat there with one driver that, you know, is consistently. It's fair to say, you know, you miss a race here or there, or maybe you've got things going on, like you've already said. Sometimes you've got things that take priority, and that's understandable in these sort of leagues. But there's got to be a point where, you know, if you don't race for the majority or all the season, you've got to then look at it and think, at what point do we replace this driver? At what point do we, you know, bring in somebody that is here every week? And Herman is that guy. He's here every week. He's performing extremely well. He's currently nearly 20 seconds ahead of Danger David, who we know is a front runner in this league, as is VSM Sandman. And maybe he's been assisted by the fact that safety cars have come out here and there, and maybe a little bit of rain that's done him a bit of favour. But nonetheless, it's 17.5 seconds ahead of Danger David, 23 ahead of third place. He's 25 seconds away from falling off of a podium position, and he has no penalties, and he's here every week. So at some point you've got to look at it and think maybe having Herman in a driver lineup would make sense. But there you go, missing out on it just last season will raise a lot of eyebrows and a lot of questions, especially with the way he's come into this season. VSM Sandman now within that 3 seconds of Toxic CZ10. He's going to try and close the gap even more within the next 4 laps, because he knows if he can also maybe get closer to D. Perez, who he is only, as it stands at the moment, 4 seconds behind. And I think, he's going to stay out of the way there to allow VSM Sandman to go through on the outside. Absolutely fine. Surubo then gets a 10-second time penalty for moving out of the way. This game makes absolutely zero sense sometimes, but there you go. If he stayed on the way, he'd be in trouble for blocking. If he's out of the way, he's in trouble for moving. It makes absolutely zero sense. I feel for Surubo in those situations. But VSM Sandman currently in 5th place, and with his time difference at the moment, I'm going to say he will take 3rd place away from D. Perez. So, not a bad effort at all to be able to get himself back onto a podium position. And with the way some of these cars are slowing down and taking it careful, could he maybe in those final 3 laps close the gap on Danger David?
Yeah, potentially. Just on board with Herman, mate. Comfortable as anything. Sandman down in 5th, not really closing the gap. Although, saying that, there's a little bit of a train. Toxic is within half a second of D. Perez, so Sandman could quite possibly here. Yeah, there's 4 cars in front of him, so with a good couple of laps here, Sandman could somehow find himself up in 2nd if he continues the good form that he had in the couple of laps before the rain started.
Not only that, as it stands, VSM Sandman will be 3rd place because of the time penalties that D. Perez and Toxic have got. So at the moment, it is in VSM Sandman's favour. He could get himself back up there in a podium finish. And I think based upon how this race has gone, I know it's not going to be the same as a race win, but it's going to be as good as based upon how it's really fallen for him, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Not a bad debut for the McLaren at all. Of course, there have been quite a few changes in the driver lineup this season. So Herman out in lead at the moment. 3 laps left to go of this Mexican Grand Prix. We've had entertainment from start to finish with our dynamic weather, and we've even had the introduction of safety cars on a more than regular basis. Bert Mylander has definitely earned his wages in this one. So Sandman, we are on board with in 5th place at the moment, just watching him close that gap onto Toxic. We do have a gap formed around halfway down the grid as well, as I don't think he's going to really put too much into making an error. You've got to think, in this rainy weather, you're not going to take too much of a risk, are you? 5/10 behind Toxic, 1.6 seconds behind D. Perez. You know, do you really need to take that risk? The position's yours. Do you think realistically in the next 3 laps you're going to get that 8 seconds to catch up with, or 5 seconds to catch up with Danger David, because he's got a time penalty as well? Maybe not. So at this point, do you just accept it for what it is?
Maybe not, but we also know anything can happen. But yeah, just purely based on assuming the race is clear for this last 3 laps, yeah, you would assume not.
Yeah, so you don't really want to be taking a risk. I mean, if the gap opens up with Toxic, or if D. Perez do have an incident, or even Danger David have an incident that allows you to maybe get ahead, then you take it. But otherwise, you're now 1.8 seconds behind third place. With them both having a 3-second time penalty, you take it, don't you? And then the Mercedes obviously will get second and fourth place at that point. And he's going to go up the inside anyway and take it past Toxic, who I think just came off a little bit too wide. But if that opportunity presented itself, if he got past Perez, it could be a bit of a shootout to get himself into Danger David territory before the end of this race. But it does look pretty much solidified, barring a miracle, barring a huge error. We have our race winner. Skin, we are about a lap away, so I'll let you prepare for your turn to take us through the final lap. I've done it every time we've done these, but for the last race you're going to be here for, holy cow, Sandman's got a penalty. That's changed everything. Now he might have to take that punt on D. Perez to try and get himself into third place, because it stands at the moment, after I've said he's simply faultless, he's made a fault. Fourth place as it stands at the moment, he got ahead of Toxic, but now he needs to get that gap closed on D. Perez with almost a lap left. But yeah, I was saying, Skin, with it being your last race, I'm going to let you take us round the last lap with Herman. I'll jump on board with him in just a moment's time when he gets ready to cross the stop-start line for the final lap, so I'll let you prepare yourself for your swan song, if you will, as we stay on board at the moment with Sam Manny's 1.3 seconds behind D. Perez, and it looks like that 3-second time penalty that he just got might actually be the icing on top of the cake for his race, where he's going to finish in fourth place. So Danger David in second, D. Perez in third, VSM Sam Man in fourth, and Toxic in fifth. Finish off your top five. I am now going to jump on board with Herman for the final time. Skin, take us to the end of the race.
Am I on board with Herman as well? And here we go. As Herman crosses the line going into the final lap, it's taken about 3 days. I think I was 33 years old when this race started, and I don't know what age I am now. I feel like it's been a lifetime. But Herman, Mr. Consistent, it would have been very interesting if Johnsy was still in the league to see the calibre of drivers that we've had join over these last few months. But yeah, I want to say, I don't want to curse him, but touch wood, as I tap my wooden table, as I say this, shouldn't have any issues for Herman as he completes what should be a winning lap in Mexico. Formula 1, Farah getting a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Herman, one of only 4 drivers remaining out of the 15 with no time penalties to serve. He's been Mr. Consistent since he joined. He's ruffled some feathers. He's knocked Sandman down into fourth place, which I believe is the lowest we've ever seen him finish in a race, or certainly myself. I know, Aggie, you have commentated on a couple of races without me. As Herman goes into the third and final sector, the final sector of the race. It's been emotional. It's been crazy. It's been chaotic. But the new man on the track, he's unassigned at the moment, so I'm having a little bit of flag as the confetti and the fireworks go off. Sandman has left the session, he's had enough. He's in protest as the new leading light in the all assists off league. Herman, 26, crosses the line and takes yet another win. 2 races now we have commentated on him, and 2 races he has won. Danger David, what a performance, starting in 18th place, managing to get up into second, and his teammate D. Perez completing the podium. A great performance for Mercedes / not Mercedes this race. And Toxic up in fourth, one of the popular drivers on our streams, has secured 4th place. Aggie, what do you think to that?
Yeah, I liked your little ending to that, so well done, and of course thank you for joining me throughout the course of all these races throughout the season 10, season 11, of course the start of season 12. I've just stayed on board with Toxic for reasons I can't quite understand at the moment, so I'll jump on board with Racing Will so you can at least see somebody finish on my stream. But yeah, Herman, you said it yourself, Mr. Consistent. He joined, he's raced 2 races for us. We've seen both of those race wins. VSM Sandman finishes in 5th place after all said and done. It's been tough for him, and he's really going to have to step up and hope that some drivers can be a bit more consistent in their appearances to make sure that Herman doesn't get a seat, because at the moment we might see Herman racing for different teams every week, but I don't see him being beaten. 25 seconds ahead of Danger David. Danger David was one of the front runners. Him and BSM Saman were the elite in this league. They were so far ahead of everybody else, but then you see the improvements that have been made. RSO12, we didn't see too much of it today because he went out early on, but Ivor, Quincy, these sort of drivers that have improved massive amounts throughout the course of these last couple of seasons, and he's still dominant by 25 seconds. So the question is going to be raised: who, when, and at what point is it all going to stop for him? We'll be back in just a few moments' time, where we get to go through the drivers' interviews and see just who joins the podium chat. So that concludes race 1 of season 12 of the All Assists Off League. We are back and we've had plenty of entertainment to see us through this past race. We'll start now with the drivers' interviews by welcoming to the commentary box Tobbe Lenzen. First of all, thank you very much for joining us. Unfortunately, you were the first casualty in the race today. Just talk us through exactly what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. I was on my braking point and then I got hit by another driver. I think it was Kwan, and he apologized after the incident. But yeah, it's really frustrating for the first race of the season to get no points. But thankfully my teammate got some.
Yes, teaming up with VSM Sandman in the McLaren. So what's your intentions heading into this season? What sort of targets have you set yourself?
I was continue where I left off in the last season, like getting some top 10 finishes and some points and probably some podiums. But yeah, let's wait and see what the season will bring.
And looking at the track lineup for this upcoming season, is there any sort of race that stands out to you as one that's your preference? I mean, for me, obviously, with you all driving with all assists off, it's difficult in general for me to get my head around how you do it. So, in general, is the one that stands out for you as maybe a bit of a strong point for you?
I don't know, really, no.
No? Fair enough. Well, commiserations on the last place finish, but of course, as a McLaren fan, I'm rooting for you throughout the season, so go and get those points for us. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box. We'll, of course, jump over now to the race winner. 2 races and 2 victories. Herman, thank you very much for joining us. Just talk us through how you managed in the wet weather to get a 25-second lead over the course of around about 9 laps.
Not to brag there, but that's actually 3 out of 3 wins now, and I managed to do quite well. I wasn't so surprised about how the car was behaving. I didn't want to change up anything. I think the car was set up for a good mix of conditions. For wet wouldn't have gone well, but that wasn't on the table for today. So yeah, it was quite low wing, as you might have seen throughout the race, but yeah, just managed to keep it on the black stuff. Yeah, just some 2 late warnings there at the end in the stadium section, but yeah, an overall good car to drive, apart from the sprint, which was quite a handful, I can tell you. The differential settings were good for equal cars, but not for the multiplayer cars, so that was quite a struggle to keep the car on the track after the safety restart, but in terms of the weather was fine.
And you qualified in 3rd place, probably one of the lowest positions that we've actually seen you on in this league since you joined. What was going through your mind when you went into the sprint race, knowing the 2 drivers that are ahead of you are quite strong contenders?
To be honest, the lookout in terms of the starting position, even after qualifying, wasn't too bad, especially considering how long the straight is and how low my wing I predicted to be compared to the rest of the guys. So that was actually the only part I was thinking, are we going to get through turn 1 with all 3 guys alongside, which wasn't the case. So yeah, I was just going to manage how the race is going to turn out, especially with the different strategies. 2 guys on the mediums, including myself, and Sandman on the hards there. So just trying to make it pass and then pull the gaps. So yeah, just survive turn 1 to 3 was the main goal there at the start. So yeah, especially with that long straight, no major concerns that would be stuck there. So enough spaces there as well in terms of the width. So yeah, all good.
Well, it's slightly different for you, of course. We know a couple of the drivers that are the front runners and expected to be battling again for the championship this season. You've won 3 out of 3, but you're not assigned to a team. How do you feel that the potential inconsistency in appearances is going to affect your championship chances?
From my side, my mind is quite free. On the other side, yeah, obviously I have to rely on people not making it, and of course being the first one from the reserve drivers to sign in. That's probably gonna be hard, especially when I miss sprint races and the full qualifying race in Monaco. But as of right now, I think every race I'm participating and I can actually be driving in one car should be on for a win. Like, I always would be targeting that. Obviously, I have stronger and weaker tracks, but in terms of the overall calendar, Mexico is my most hated, and I just completely obliterated it. So, yeah, quite a good wave to run, and the vibes overall were good today. I wasn't so concerned about the track anymore, just about focusing on myself. Yeah, I managed to do that, and I hope I can transfer that to other races next summer out in Kota as well.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the race win, and hopefully we'll be speaking to you much more throughout the course of the season. Let's move further down the grid ever so slightly, though. We'll start by talking to Di Perez, who, of course, has had what I feel is a fantastic race in general. You've been hindered ever so slightly by a couple of penalties here and there, but in the end, you managed to get yourself on the podium.
Yeah, in the end, the result was great. I mean, it was a tough track. I wasn't really looking forward to it. I didn't get too much practice. And seeing the result, 2 podiums, one in the sprint, one in the race, was definitely a great result. We managed to get both the Mercedes on the podium there in the race, so that's a good bunch of points for the team. And in general, the race was tough. I mean, luckily, mid-race, I had my teammate helping me out with the DRS, helped me defend off some other drivers like Toxic, and in the end, in the rain, obviously, it was really tough. I had Sandman and Toxic catching up to me, but I just managed to make it through on time and stay ahead of them. So, great result.
Yeah, very difficult to keep up with the penalties towards the end, not just from you, but in general, everyone who was getting penalties. Was there any sort of concern? Because, of course, Danger Dave was ahead of you when the rain started falling and you went into the pits. Now, I know you two have an understanding from driving alongside each other for a long time, but was there any worries that when you went into the pits just behind him that you might have lost a bit of time and maybe even a position?
Yeah, actually, I had a technical issue with my headset. It switched off, so I couldn't hear the car. I had to switch on my headset again, and I managed to lose a bit of time there on the exit of the pits. But it was enough. Yeah, I mean, it was enough to stay ahead of Toxic. I managed to put a fight, and then also against Sandman there on the last lap. So, a great result. Yeah.
And last season you did win a race. Of course, your team as Red Bull won the Constructors' Championship. What was your intentions heading into this season with is it mainly to prove that you can be consistently at the front with some of the other drivers?
Yeah, that's my main objective. Last season I had a couple of bad races, a lot of DNFs. So I'm looking this season to have a little bit more of consistency. Try and help out the team as much as possible and hopefully aim for the constructors. And on a personal level, just try and get the top 5 there as consistent as possible.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on your podium and hopefully speak to you further down the line throughout the season as well. Let's go over to second place on the grid then, Danger David, who after what looked like a very difficult start to the race, very difficult start to the sprint race as well actually, you managed to make your way up into a podium. It's just another case of going from rags to riches for you, isn't it? Starting at the back or falling to the back and then making your way up.
Thanks very much, yeah. This seems to be the running theme in my races, is something happens in the early laps and it ends up costing me the good start of the race. The sprint race, unfortunately, because of the button change, I didn't map my ERS to the correct button. So the whole way down the front straight on the sprint, I lost about 5 or 6 places. And then I realised very quickly my ERS button was actually the X. So I was able to very quickly that and then get back in the race again.
And second place, I know obviously you're the defending drivers' champion at the moment, but you came up against very tough opposition today, didn't you?
Yeah, that's some really good drivers on the track, including my teammate as well. Perez was really, really on form, so we had to communicate the whole race, and we made sure that we weren't going to interfere. And you've probably seen that maybe in some of the clips in the race. We made sure to overtake each other in good positions, and we made sure to maintain DRS between us just to give us that extra opportunity. But yeah, starting that main feature race in 18th position, it was a challenge. There was, I think, must have been maybe 5-6 different incidents that I had to massively avoid during the race. So yeah, it was a really tiring race, and to be honest, See, once the rain came on, and once I finally got into that second place opportunity, I was worn out, if I'm being honest with you. I wasn't just in at that point, and I just seen the gap that Herman was pulling, and props to him, by the way. What a driver he is. Respect.
And of course, we've just heard from Perez, who says that, you know, it's great to see that you're both still on the podium. Naturally, that is going to be a great result for you both. But for you, is it all about going back to back as well? I know you've just won the drivers and the constructors. Is the double feet on again for you?
I do believe that constructors, me and Perez, we have a solid team. And if, like you said, if he can stay consistent and I can stay consistent, I do think we can take the constructors again. Once again, just like last season, the main goal is to take the constructors. The drivers is secondary to that. And I do think that this season I'm going to be up against some really, really tough competition. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations on a second position and a second and third position for your Mercedes debut to you and Di Perez. And again, look forward to speaking to you further down the line throughout the course of this 8-race season. We have just finished race 1, so we're now going to bring in Quincy, who I think for the best part of that race, we were ducking and diving with the potential that you could have been finishing in the top 5. But I think penalties just in collisions as well kind of hindered you a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, a bit of an awful race by me. To be honest, I didn't have a lot of practice coming into this race as I wanted to with the newborn at home. So I was just trying to manage loads and loads of mistakes from me. I think I've had collisions with Perez, David, Ivor as well in the sprint race, T-Bran as well. So I'm sure I've got a couple of penalty points and seconds coming my way. So I just want to apologise for that. But hopefully I'll do better next week. This has just always been a really tough track, trying to find the balance in the setup. I spent most of my time today trying to find whether to go high downforce or low downforce, and ended up changing my mind last minute. So went with the low downforce setup, and it didn't really do well for the rain in the end. So I lost a lot of time and a lot of positions there. But hey-ho, we move on. It's only the first race, and we'll get back to it next week, hopefully.
Exactly, and I wasn't aware, so congratulations, of course, for the newborn. And after a couple of fallbacks and setbacks throughout the race, you still managed to get a 7th place finish in the race. So it's still bits to build on as well, isn't it?
I think it was 9th or 10th, I believe.
I
believe it was 9th.
I've got the picture in front of me. It says 7th.
7th, really? Oh, I'm very surprised about that. Yeah, I mean, I was fighting all the way through to get back to where I was. At one point I was 4th or 5th, I believe, behind Perez, and had a little mistake with him that put me down, and then the safety cars kind of helped me get back to where I was, and I'm not sure how I ended up with a 30-second gap from T-Bran, but yeah, luck, I guess, and timing, but I can do a lot better, and I feel like if I get enough practice for this coming week at Kota, then it will be definitely aiming for the top 5.
Absolutely. Well, gents, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure covering race 1 in Mexico. Look forward to, of course, being back next week. But thank you very much, and all the best until next week.
Pieces.
So that concludes race 1 for us here in Mexico, and race 1 of season 12 of the All Assist Soft League. As mentioned, we're back next Monday at around about 7:30 again.